Hello, sir. Welcome to the show. My name is Larry Semenigoats, and I would like for you to introduce yourself, Mr. Vice President. Go ahead.
Oh, Yante Larson. Siya ay Myron Liza yun siya. I am half Comanche, half Navajo. Was born in Ganado, Arizona, raised in Fort Defiance, graduated from Winter Rock High School. So spent predominantly most of my life on the Navajo Nation. I'm a business owner now. My wife of 34 years. We have three adult children, two grandbabies, and the businesses are out there for me to readily take up. But the gift are the recent exposure to the political realm. Tribal leader, being the former vice president now of the Navajo Nation, there's a lot of opportunity there to advance all of our measures. All of our needs, our priorities. We're so disadvantaged. Using the federal government words, disadvantaged communities. So how can we help? And I won't say I grew up with a silver spoon in my mouth, as they say, but my family, we've been afforded opportunities that most of my people here on the Navajo Nation don't really have those opportunities, don't have the options, don't have the hope in the future that I have seen that is attainable. Again, having lived on the Navajo Nation all these years, started up businesses and developing business, so it can be done, but again, want more opportunity for my people.
Yes, sir. What was your time like as Vice President on Navajo Nation, and what were the key points? Anything historical that you want to share?
Oh my, yeah, so many things. Things that really I think of now after leaving office 21 months ago or so, as getting to pray and lay hands on President Trump in the Oval Office. We were invited there in 2019. I think it was November 23rd, 2019. He was signing an executive order on missing and murdered Indigenous women. And he was the first president to deal with that subject, a needed subject to be dealt with. And that signing of that executive order launched Operation Lady Justice. And I took the opportunity there once the meeting disassembled and everybody was leaving the Oval Office. And him and Melania were getting ready to go pardon the presidential turkey. It was right before Thanksgiving back then. And I took the opportunity to ask him if we can pray with him. My wife was there. My good friend, former tribal chairman of the Crow Nation, AJ Not Afraid, was there. I believe then the Attorney General, then AG Bill Barr, was there, and a few other, I think, tribal leaders were in the room. And I took the opportunity to ask President Trump, can we pray for you, President Trump? We are First Nations. Our prayers are powerful. We are still here. Without batting an eye, without one moment of doubt, he turned around and says, yes, by all means, I need all the help I can get. And so I have a picture of that, of us in the Oval Office praying for him, laying hands on him. And so that was really a very powerful time for me. It was some would say, well, the Lord told me or showed me I'd be doing that. I just had this deep down in my conscience, in my spirit, that I would be able to pray for presidents, and that lo and behold came true. Other things, going through the pandemic, being invited by President Trump down to Phoenix, Arizona, where in May 5th, 2020, it was during the height of the pandemic. He was there at the Honeywell plant to reprovision the Honeywell plant and now make an announcement that they were going to start pumping out masks and gloves and hand sanitizer. And so they were going to change up and re-improvise the factory there. And he also was going to announce that the Navajo Nation would be the recipient of 714,189,000, I think it was $145.47. Then it was the largest funding package ever given to a tribal nation. And so we were there to receive that. And it was amazing. A little joke here. That the first tranche he was giving to Navajo. And so, again, it was during the height of the pandemic, right? We had to close our nation down. There was no travel. And yet, as a tribal leader, I saw no problem with going down to meet the president of the United States, the most powerful man in the world, right? And meet and talk about the pandemic, and again to receive the monies there, by protocol. The meme was, I don't always go to Phoenix, but when I do, I bring back $600 million. Little joke, but it was very powerful, and it spoke messages that that Indian country was ascending up the echelon of influence and certainly of notoriety. In this case, it was all negative, right? Because the pandemic, if you remember, COVID-19 virus had really demoralized our nation. A lot of our people were dying. In fact, we led the world in per capita, per 100,000, I think, as the statistics go and show that Navajo was right up there above New Orleans, Miami, New York, and some of the other world places that it was really ravaging our nation. So those two really stand out for me, and just the ability to command the time of president, and then being asked to accompany him on his campaign tour in Albuquerque and Phoenix and Flagstaff, so Williams, Arizona. So it was great. It was needed, and just to keep Indian country relevant, right, in the know, in the mix, on top of the news feeds. That was all good for Indian country, I feel.
Do you think grassroots among Native Americans are the same as Native American sovereignty?
I think those are two separate factions, if I could put it that way, or trains of thought, modes of thought. The grassroots, I understand, would be like our grazing permittee holders, the land, people that live on the land, live off the land, live on the Navajo Nation. That's the grassroots. We do say, I think by and large, our people say we're sovereign. Let's exercise our sovereign rights. So that's words, but do we actually do it? And so again, my experience as the vice president of the Navajo Nation, we don't really understand sovereignty per se. In my opinion, it's my opinion. I believe we should be asserting our sovereignty. If we say we're sovereign and we say we govern ourselves, well, we need to be asserting our sovereignty as well. And so for me, that means that we should, be able to really do some great work on our own lands here. I did a little quick kind of study on that word sovereignty. Which question was that?
That was number three.
Yeah, number three. The word, and I just looked up Webster's, right? It says freedom from external control. Right there reveals the problem, reveals the tension, right? Reveals the issue, the crisis. Yeah. Freedom from external control. Are we free? No, we're not. We have oversight, the federal government, right? DOI, BIA, BLM, so many layers of oversight. So we're not really sovereign. And how do you assert your sovereignty? Well, I believe if you live on the land, then you should be well adept at asserting your sovereignty to govern your people, make your own laws, do all those things to lead your people, lead your nation into better times. And so I believe we do have a controlling influence over us, and true sovereignty doesn't have that. True sovereignty, I believe, in this day and age, true sovereignty is actually partnering with the federal government, telling them that we have this issue, this is what we want to do, help us provide a better lifestyle for our people. I think that's true sovereignty.
In your opinion, do you think treaties in modern world work well on the same business or investment levels for tribes?
No, mostly because I think the words business and government, they needn't be in the same sentence. I'm a businessman, right? I understand business, the vernacular, the acumen. I'm more comfortable in the boardroom and the back room of these said businesses. Government is too much bureaucracy. It's too much protocol, too many layers of oversight, especially as a tribal nation. So I always say the word government and business do not belong in the same sentence. So that's kind of revealing in this question. So I don't believe, it's kind of like government and business is like water and oil. You can't mix them. You have to separate them. Some tribes have done that, separated the business arm from the governmental arm, the direct services to the people. And then you have the revenue generating emphasis or entity outside of that government bureaucracy. So I think those tribes that set that up can readily govern a little bit easier because they're raising money. They're they're self-determining themselves more readily, and so the money that they make, they don't have to. They're not tied down to the oversight and the multi constraints of the federal dollars. Right, it's too hard to spend dollars. So if you can make your own money, then you could govern yourself a little bit more easier. So, but when you're dependent on the government, man, I tell you, it comes with your hamstrung. Your hands are tied behind your back. You can't really do what you need to do, and that's why it's just so slow going here in Indian country. And so I think I think we give the treaties in concept, they're great. They said, the further on the business and investment for tribes. Some tribes are doing great, good. They're probably gaming tribes, right? They're in those locations where they have the, I guess, suburban and metropolitan, population to draw from. And so they're doing very well. For those tribes that are more rural, don't have a lot of resources, it behooves those tribes to what I call ready, willing, and able to make themselves ready, willing, and able for investment, for not only their investment, but for outside entities to invest in them as well. Otherwise, it's going to be slow going if we just are solely dependent on federal government funding, for projects. Every year, TIBIC, Tribal Interior Budget Council, they convene and all the tribal leaders come and they talk and advocate, sometimes very demonstratively, but vociferously, show how much they need the money for, let's say, public safety. I don't doubt that every tribe has the need for greater enhanced public safety, whether it's more police officers, resources. We need police cars, we need ammunition, we need the arsenal, we need Kevlar vests. On and on. It's like the budgets for these spheres of government is tremendous, and so if you're always at the mercy of the federal government, man, it's going to be slow going, and a lot of tribes are in that boat, in that predicament. And so those tribes that are able to readily make themselves ready, willing, and able for investment and to invest, then I think those tribes are going to do very well. And they could always be aided in this spectrum by the new Trump administration pulling back regulations, pulling back, helping new policy to a level where tribes can actually self-determine their future. As you know, we have 7 generations that we usually advocate for, that we care for. Biblically, a man is certainly blessed when he leaves an inheritance for his children and his children's children. So that's what we want to do. We want to be able to create legacy wealth, we call it. The westernized thinking is dominates the trusts, family trusts, and the foundations that are able to provide security and income and wealth for generation after generation is set up. And if we can mimic that in our own ways, I think we would be well served by that. And so becoming more, able to flow in a self-determining mode that is the government, back to Richard Nixon days, right? Most people don't know, under Republican, Indian country was aided by the Indian Self-Determination Act. Under Ronald Reagan, Indian country was aided a lot by, the recognition of the code talkers, on and on. But there's just so many things that the Republicans have done well. I believe we're in that moment now where Republicans and conservatives and the GOP could aid Indian country. We have to lead them the water, so to speak. This is the election showed that Indian country by a 65% clip voted for President Trump. I think they were done with the old politics, the old Democratic Party, didn't advance their measures and their priorities the way they promised they would. And so they showed up at the polls and says, we need something new, different. Maybe they didn't like Trump as a person, as a president, but they love his policies, right? Our food was way down. Our gas prices were way down. We were energy dominant. And, some of those tribes that have resources, that have fossil fuel, fossil energy, that have coal, some of those tribes, they did well. And so now, by and large, the greater good of Indian country needs to be served. And so I believe that tribes need to be ready, willing, and able. We should be able to tap into our natural resources more readily, pull back the regulations, pull back I guess, all that slows down development in Indian country. And we should be partnering with the right conglomerates, if I could put it that way, those that are able to bring their technology and their expertise into Indian country, help us use our sovereignty and use our sovereignty. It's kind of a derogative word, use. I don't mean it to sound the way most people would interpret it. Use. Oh, we're being used. To use our sovereignty as an unfair or a competitive advantage. My case argument is Elon Musk and right? New Mexico has a state law on the books that prohibits car manufacturing selling to the public. Well, is doing that in New Mexico right now on the tribal lands of Nambe Pueblo, a sovereign nation, and also Sandia Pueblo, not to be outdone. Built Tesla, a state-of-the-art showroom facility and a service center on tribal lands. And so, again, that's my case argument. Who else out there? If companies are looking to reshore to North America, I believe Indian country is the last frontier. We should be hearkening from the rooftop, the mountaintops. Indian country is open for business, right? I mean, and then be willing to down with these entities, use again their expertise, their deep pockets, and help bring us into the 21st century, which was a message I had given to President Trump and on the stage there in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We want to be invited to the American dream.
Right. How did your name come up with President Trump to be a nominee for DOI, Department of Indian Interior?
At this moment in time, I hear a lot of Larson, you and I would say Jeanette, Jeanette News, right? People, the rumor mill, started. I guess when you stump for somebody, you're seemingly thought of to be considered as, like a candidate for a position, a high position in the cabinet or in the jobs that will be available by a new administration coming in, whether it's Navajo or whether it's, the national government. I think it's just a natural thought. I advocated for President Trump. I stumped for him on the campaign, not once, but twice. There's a lot of a backlash from my own people. I understand that. I get it. I guess you could say I'm seasoned. I'm a veteran of the politics. But I'll be the first one to tell you, I'm not really a politician per se. I just want to get stuff done for the betterment of the people. In this case, the people is everybody. We're all God's creation. We're all created by in God's image, and the people really stand to have a government that really truly is for the people, by the people, and of the people. So, how does that happen? You just got to have open-minded, open-hearted, truly integrity-filled people, citizens who will stop at nothing to just like, the two greatest commandments. I could just harken it down. A lot of it's more faith for me. Love our creator God, should be in God with all our mind, with all our heart, with all our soul, and to love our neighbor as ourselves. What does that look like in the realm of government? I think you have to have these two guiding thoughts, these two, guiding principles to help you make those decisions. It's not, President Trump would even say win-win, right? The art of the deal. How do you get the win-win? Somebody's got to compromise, and somebody's got to, be open to receiving that compromise. So we all need one another. As I said on stage there in Albuquerque again, the left wing and the right wing, we're of the same bird.
Right. There's a problem with propaganda, fake news, and everything else. The previous administration for DOI didn't have a lot of things platformed, or I should say, there was not really a foundation with information. So, where can I find now for Native people to find credible information for the next plan for Department of the Interior?
Wow, wow. That's a loaded question, because I do ascribe to the reality that there is different news sources out there, and different news sources are inclined to believe one way. Whether I guess in the realm of being liberal or conservative, right? Uh, I think we need to get back to that. We need to have a I'll just say it. We need to have a come to Jesus, right? Truly motivated by serving one another, motivated by equity, motivated by consideration, and motivated by giving everyone the benefit of the doubt until they prove you wrong. Um, News, gosh, again, why can't we get back to the days where the truth was well told? I stole somebody's moniker there. Really, that should be our motivation in and of itself, right? Thomas Boswell quoted it, excellence in and of itself is the best of all foundations. I think the same could be said for truth and the reporting of it. Truth in and of itself is the best of all foundations. Once we commit to that, everybody ascribes themselves to that. I think we become a better society. I think things will get done. We're not necessarily looking for who will get the credit. And so right now, present state media kind of tends to MSM, mainstream media, fake news. They tend to guide the narrative one way, the way they want it to go. And then there's people controlling those people who are just merely filling jobs, positions, right? And maybe a lot of them are well paid. That's why, again, they drink the Kool-Aid. And so my boss said to do this, so therefore I do that. We have to look at the motivations of people. There should be fruit on the tree of whatever organization that's out there, and how do you discern who's telling truth, who's not? I think one has to pursue truth themselves. Right now, the way you were raised. I mean, that's the truth, right? I mean, we're all God-fearing people. We're taught to, treat others with kindness. The golden rule, treat others the way you want to be treated. There's kind of guiding principles, and once those are violated, I think it becomes a free for all. And so society is at that, I guess, period right now where most of these controlling media outlets are self-serving. And we need to really get back to reporting truth, telling the truth, being unbiased, providing scripts, providing comments and feedbacks from both sides, right? Let the people decide. And I think people to this point now, why this election was won by President Trump was people are not stupid. People can see that they were being led down a rabbit hole. Again, because we're all principle minded, we're raised in a good way, and we all started to see our principles being violated, our rights being alienated and being violated, right? Stripping away, it was a chipping away. There's a question that of where the heart of man is now, and I believe our Creator wants our hearts to be guided back to Him, so that we can have a society that truly is and would lead us to becoming the United States of America, right? A nation founded on godly principles. We've lost our way, and so I and others. I know President Trump wants to make America great again. I said, and I'm on record by making Native America great. We've never been there. We've never been to as the Build Back Better, right? I mean, I have to scoff at that. How can you build back better to a place you've never been? We're trying to catch up. I'm trying to help Indian country catch up to the rest of America.
One of the major subjects that come up on the world stage is the Chinese Communist Party. Do you think that Native Americans should condemn the regime, the Chinese Communist Party, because of what they've created throughout the world and what it did to Indian country, to the Indian reservations. Do you think, do you have an idea how deep that issue goes with the Chinese Communist Party?
Yeah, I guess first I would like to qualify that by saying Chinese people, again, created in God's image. Not all of them are trying to defeat America, right? There's probably a very few, a select few, a very privileged few that have risen into power, and they have a
Right.
100-year plan to do just that, to supplant the United States of America as the dominant nation, as the number one economy, as the number one in, I guess, armored or I'll just say military power. So that's what I believe and I see. And you have to be open minded again to actually hear and not construe it as conspiracy, right? I mean, yeah, it is a conspiracy, but how effective have they been in that 100-year plan? So you really have to show yourself studied and approved to grasp all the things that are happening on the world stage. And as I say that, not to say that our tribes are ignorant, but how many tribes are actually looking at the world stage? I know Navajo, we have to because our people and all tribes, all the leaders should be thinking on a world stage level spectrum. If there was ever a foreign conflict somewhere, a faraway war, our people and the United States entered into it or were drawn into it, God forbid, our people, our young ones, would show up and enlist at a very high rate to defend the motherland. I wouldn't necessarily say to defend America, but the motherland. This is our land. We were here first. We're the host people. I believe we have a lot of authority, spiritual authority, and covenant authority. We're here first. But with that said, if America was to enter into another foreign conflict, man, where else are we going to go? We're not going to go to Scandinavia. We're not going to go to England. We're not going to go. Where did we go? As First Nations, this is the motherland and it should be protected by any means. And so, to your question, we have to be knowledgeable about the world stage. Not that I'm any theologian or scholar or anything, that's great and extensive in that thought and realm and discipline and those disciplines that actually the world, I guess, lends itself to. Who knows out there about the 100-year plan to become a dominant nation by China. Again, Chinese people, they're just like us. They put their pants on the same way. Their blood is red just like ours. And there's few people in the world leadership, few people in world leadership that are trying to control these nations. And we have to be knowledgeable about that.
Right. Just so the audience understands that there is the people of the Chinese people, and then there's a political side, the Chinese Communist Party, and that was the CCP has stolen the Republic of China from the people, so they hijacked that government, so it's separate from the Chinese people. So CCP doesn't believe in God, so they believe in the government only. So there are two separate things. Chinese people and the CCP are two separate things, just so the audience understands that.
Yeah.
And the next question is, how do you think we should secure the borders where there are reservations? There's already a border issue, Trump securing it, but we do have to factor in that we have a National Guard there, Border Patrol, DEA, CIA on those borders. They're going in and out of these reservations like a military base. Uh, do you think they were ignoring some sovereignties doing these things, and how should we secure those areas?
I believe that they are. Again, it's a federal is above the tribes themselves, right? I mean, what is good for the federal, I guess, government apparatus influence, so to speak. I believe it does violate the tribal sovereignty. Again, sovereignty. How do you use it? I believe in a respective tribe's sovereignty. They should work with the federal government to make them, open channels, open communication, and magnified communication. Cover every base, as they say, or cross your I's, dot your T's, or it's the other way, dot your I's and cross your T's. Um, the government protocol and what the tribes really would like to see is what they call tribal consultation, right? They want to be consulted on everything that the federal government wishes to do, and before they do it. And when it's not done that way, then it's like okay, relations are very strained, and the full desires of a tribal nation are not respected, and thus the proceedings don't honor that. And where a tribe could actually participate here, I believe, is being open to the federal government, recognizing there is a need to have our borders closed. Right now, fentanyl. How many people have we lost? The number is astounding. The number of people, young ones, people that have died by fentanyl. It's coming over in droves and droves and droves. It's coming over by the millions of pounds of tonnage, and it's like, Lord, how can we alleviate this? The federal government is the government, is the oversight, is the power that can help us curtail that, stop it, and our nations will improve. Our nations, the United States will improve, and the tribal nations, life, quality of life, protection, and confidence and security will also increase. So a tribal nation has to understand that, and how do we make that look, working side by side. Right now the tribes don't have that kind of those resources, and so they have to let the federal government kind of just come in and do what they want and how they want to do it. So I think if I was there, I don't know, maybe somebody that'll see this interview will say, hey, we could use President or Vice President Lizer there to work with the tribe. In this case, it might be Tohono O'odham, good friends, TON we call them, or Fort Yuma, the tribes down there. There's so many opportunities. I think that the tribes and the federal government, or in this case, when I say federal government, now we're saying the Trump administration. How can we readily work together to provide the utmost, the highest levels of respect, of integrity, of communication, and honoring again the sovereignty of a tribe? I don't doubt that those tribes that straddle the United States and Mexico border, life, there's tension there. When I say this, life can't be the way it used to be, right? Because of the present situation where the cartels are, and these guys are evil, man. These guys, they think nothing about your life. They'll take your life if you're standing in their way. And so to preserve the United States, preserve the tribal nations, I think the tribes need to come together with the Border Patrol and all, and the Department of Homeland Security and all of those agencies, FBI,
BIA.
DOI, BIA, BIA Police, and DOJ as well. How do you come together and work on a solid plan that tribes can sign off on? That needs to happen.
We used to have checkpoints back in the day. Like in Navajo Nation, we had checkpoints between long stretches of highway. Those are no longer there. Do you think it's a good idea to bring those back? Whoever's entering the reservation and exiting the reservation, just like national reserve areas, like national forests, they have checkpoints like Grand Canyon. Do you think natives should have checkpoints just like that too?
I see the need for checkpoints. I was encouraged by that. If they were in the past, why can't we bring them back now? Back then, looking at the vegetables and the fruit, they're probably just looking for certain species of I guess, bacteria or virus, or I don't know. I'm not a botanist. Substances or microorganisms that would harm the native plants, in our area. That's why they looked at that. I know they put up watch posts for like near Lake Powell, the mollusk. I forget what mollusk there is. Those little they attach themselves to the bottom of the boats, right? And so if you take it out of the water there and you go to another lake or reservoir somewhere else, you're going to introduce that mollusk that's not good for the native, I guess, species inside the reservoir. It'll bring disease. It'll bring a negative outcome. So if they could do that, I mean, I would say again, we'd have to work with those agencies that would be able to help bring this to bear. I see the need for maybe even highways being enacted and erected, simply for the fact that we have a lot of traffic. Our roads are getting torn up by semi trucks, tractor trailers coming in, 80, 90,000 pounds of just metal rolling across our highways and our potholes there. The roads are getting buckled now. They're starting to get grooved, and, you can't handle your vehicle readily if you come to these areas at a high rate of speed. I need to raise, federal excise tax on travel, right? I mean, have other people, just like, President Trump right now, the tariffs that are being enacted, is going to pay for other services that the government can provide, minimize government, and then raise taxes to those that have the resources to pay those taxes, to pay for other things. That's kind of the mode of thought there. And so this would be the same, although first, initially installed, people would moan and complain. After a while, it just become common. It'll be something that has to. If you want to go to, from point A to point B, you're going to pay, 50 cents. You're going to pay, 75 cents. The money's over a vehicle count of, 20,000 vehicles. That's going to be significant over time. And you could, pay for better roads. You could pay for better services. So it's good that could be considered. And maybe even more so, it'll be protecting our Navajo businesses here on the Navajo Nation. We're so vast, 27,000 square miles, about 190,000 live here on the Navajo Nation. And, one of the things that really is, how would you say, again, the tension when I say that, our border towns that surround the Navajo Nation are profiting at a very high rate. We're producing millionaires, non-Navajo millionaires in the border towns: Page, Flagstaff, Winslow, Holbrook, Gallup, Farmington. It's like, wow, our people, go off the nation and buy all their goods and then come back and then they cry, "Where's all the jobs?" Well, silly. You got to change your daily buying habits. And I know things are more expensive here. So what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Do businesses, Navajo-owned businesses, have to lower their prices, get to a point where they can't pay their bills and subsequently end up closing? That's one thought. The other thought is, just how consumers here on the Navajo Nation, residents of the Navajo Nation, biting the bullet and supporting Navajo businesses, standing up more businesses by the tax base that's generated. 6% going to all the purchases that are done here on Navajo, and all the gasoline, federal excise taxes, again, everything bought here on Navajo, that we start investing in our own children's future, right? There's a term I used long ago, is like, we love to eat our young. We're not giving our young ones a future. They go to college and they come back for a job. They can't find a job. They go back to the metropolitan areas, go get a good job, start a family, buy a home. 30 years later, 40 years later, they want to retire and come back home. And, it's like we lost the productive years of a lot of our young, bright ones. So we got to change that somehow.
Do you think it would be a great idea or in the best interest of grazing permits to be handled by BIA?
Oh, that's the old way of doing things, right? I mean, they set up the terms and we just followed it. It hasn't served us well because there's inefficiencies in government. Number one, there's inefficiencies in the way we've understood it and utilized it. Number two, over the years, decades, what is their goal? We got to begin with the end in mind. What do you want what are the needs? How do you expect to change it? The needs are, we need jobs, we need revenue producing projects that help us to, again, procreate, not only families, but futures. So, and we need infrastructure, broadband. We don't have broadband, proper broadband. We need water. 36% of our people that live here don't have access to running water. Power, about the same number, 35%. How do you advance a nation? There's a method that was enacted long ago. If you remember, Larson, World War II, right? After the World War II ended, to stop the threat of communism coming into Europe, America and our allies, we invested in Europe. We helped rebuild Europe. We call it the Marshall Plan. Why can't we develop a Marshall Plan for Indian country? I guess you could say we were defeated, right? I mean, we signed treaties and we were a defeated foe. And why didn't federal government rebuild us? Why didn't they invest in us? My case argument as well is after the United States dropped the bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki there in World War II again on the Pacific theater, we and our allies again went into these metropolitan areas and rebuilt a Marshall Plan platform. That platform's still alive today. We need to tap into it. Just investing in what needs to be invested in. Rebuilding Indian country, right? Catch up with the 21st century. Get rid of the term disadvantaged communities, right? I mean, some people who don't really have an understanding of Indian country and our reservations, when they do come here for the first time, they leave going back home and they say, wow, I was just at a third world country in our own backyard. They're amazed. And so I think people this is our time now. We need as if we're standing on the rooftops, hearkening to the masses, whoever would listen, that this is a time to reconcile with Indian country, Native Americans, First Nations, so many names that I readily use in describing the plight of our people. But I think it's our time, and I'm certainly trying to encourage other tribal nations to have an open mind and an open heart in your approach to working with a new Trump administration. They could do so much for us. We have to develop the right relationships. We have to give them the right structure and priorities that we like to see. Work with them, come to a compromise if need be, but truly work with them with good intentions, honest, I guess collaboration on both sides, looking out for one another, actually rebuilding a nation. Again, we've done it in other places. It's like I mean, I have to. We'll send billions of dollars to Ukraine, and Indian country still sitting here, dilapidated, disadvantaged in all our ways. It's like, we need to work together.
We don't have much time. One last question. We'll go all the way to the bottom. It says, do you think it would be a great idea to have oil reserve storages for Indian reservations once Governor Burgum and President Donald Trump gets into office? I think that would be a great investment to use some of those BLM multi-use areas.
Man, you said it. That's a hot button for me right now. Knowing every pandemic in our history has changed the way society operates, right? This is the time. This is the time where Indian country lets the world know that we are open for business. As I say that, our sovereignty is there. Again, who would like to partner with a tribal nation and assert our sovereignty for an unfair or competitive advantage, a la Tesla, right? Selling in their vehicles and their model and profiting from that. I think Indian country is the last frontier. Even Walmart can't find a new lands to conquer and build a new store, a new super center, or a new distribution center, on and on. Indian country, we have the land, we need the jobs, we need the revenue. I think true negotiations would begin with yin and mind. It's like a win-win agreement can be reached, whether it's MOU, MOA, maybe it's just a period of time, maybe scaling back, pulling back federal regulations for a season, where tribes are able to spend all those monies that CARES dollars brought and the ARPA legislation and the IRA and the BIL. It's like we've been given a lot of money. We just can't spend it because there's myriad layers of oversight and bureaucracy and constraints. How we, um, I guess, spend that dollar. So we're more or less we're forced to send it back. And so that's my whole point is Indian country on everybody's map. We should be a part of the energy discussion. CERT, Coalition of Energy Rich Tribes, way back in the day, kind of lost its momentum, and we should be helping President Trump make America energy dominant again. I'm speaking for Navajo. We have fossil energy. We have oil in the ground. We have natural gas. We have coal, 100-year supply of coal. We need to look for ways to tap into this and readily use it to help, again, America during this time. There's also the ability for us to burgeon out a true understanding of Indian country again, and how we can, I guess, bring healing to North America. How can we partner with the federal government? I don't think they've really looked at us in that regard, but we want to participate in this time under a President Trump administration, and I'll do my best job to help solidify relationships with Indian country, with those tribes that want to work with this administration. I'll do my very best to advocate at a very high level with the Trump administration on energy, on housing, on every measure that the need that a respective tribal nation would have. So I just think our cup is half full. It's not doom and gloom right now because a Republican president is in office. I think now more than ever, because he's got 2 years of a House majority and a Senate majority, we can get a lot of great things done. And so again, I put that message out there. I want to be on record for saying that I think Indian country, on the precipice of the 50th anniversary of those famous words that Billy Graham spoke in Albuquerque, New Mexico, to tribal leaders, the sleeping giant that once awakened can help usher in the last great move, the economic move, energy move, prosperity to not only the United States, but Indian country as well. We can't be out there lost and forgotten. We have to be forgotten no more. And that's President Trump's words, First Nations, forgotten peoples no more. So I just think this is our time, Larison.
Yeah, Mr. Vice President, for coming on the
Oh,
show.
oh,
Thank you. And hopefully we do this again down the road. We didn't go through everything because we were short on time. And I would like to keep this show going also. I do cover a lot of Indian problems or Indian concerns on my show throughout the Western states. Um, Again, yeah,
and if I could, Larison, I didn't cover that main topic on that last question you asked about the oil reserves.
right.
Um, During the pandemic, do you remember the national stockpile? Remember they
Yes,
had
I
found
remember
Navajo. By the time it hit our state, and then it hit our county, and then it came to the Navajo Nation. And I can only speak for Navajo. A lot of the masks, the surgical gowns, the face masks. It's like a lot of the supplies, they were outdated. They had already met their service life, and it was like you needed to throw that stuff away. We need to locate a national stockpile in Indian country. Uh, we got the last of the last of the last. To that same point, if we had oil reserves on Indian country and the Navajo Nation again, refineries producing jet fuel, refineries producing, the needed fuels that we have to help our country expand its gross domestic product by exporting Indian country. We could have international airports set on our lands here to aid international export. We could also develop rocket fuel for SpaceX. We could develop aircraft fuel and aircraft carrier fuel for the next, as President Trump says, peace through strength. Why not partner with the Indian country?
Yeah, sir. Thank you for all your answers and taking your time out doing this.